The attack. Alarms blared through the steel corridors of Outpost Echo, their shrill cries echoing off cold, unyielding walls. Commander Alex Carter sprinted towards the command center, his boots pounding the metal floor in sync with his racing heart. Red emergency lights flickered ominously, casting long shadows that danced like specters in the confined space. "Status report!" Carter barked as he burst into the room. The scent of burning circuitry filled the air, acrid and thick, mingling with the faint tang of fear that permeated the atmosphere. Lieutenant Maya Reynolds, already at her station, met his gaze with grim determination. "It's bad, sir. We're under heavy fire from an unknown alien force. They've breached the outer defenses and are moving fast." Carter clenched his jaw, forcing himself to remain calm. Panic would only get them killed faster. "Casualties? Multiple squads down. We've lost contact with sectors 2 and 3, Reynolds replied, her voice steady but strained. "The comms array is damaged. We're cut off from Earth." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Isolated, outgunned, and outmaneuvered, the situation was dire. But Carter wasn't the type to give up. Not now, not ever. "Prep the survivors for evacuation to the underground bunker," Carter ordered. "We'll regroup there and figure out our next move." Reynolds nodded and relayed the command. The room buzzed with activity as the remaining crew worked with desperate efficiency. Carter scanned the monitors, trying to make sense of the chaos unfolding on the screens. The alien ships were sleek and predatory, their black hulls gliding through space with an eerie grace. Energy blasts from their weapons tore through human defenses like paper, leaving destruction in their wake. "We can't fight them head-on," Reynolds said, her fingers dancing over the controls. "They're too advanced." Carter's mind raced, searching for options. They needed time to regroup, to understand their enemy, and to find a way to strike back. But time was a luxury they didn't have. "We don't need to fight them," Carter said, his voice cold and resolute. "We just need to survive." With the plan set, the crew moved with purpose, gathering what supplies they could carry and sealing off compromised areas. The outpost shuddered under another barrage, the lights flickering as the power struggled to stay online. The ground trembled beneath them, as if the planet itself feared the enemy's wrath. Carter and Reynolds led the group through the labyrinthine corridors, the echoes of distant explosions growing louder with each step. The bunker door loomed ahead, a massive steel barrier that offered a slim promise of safety. As they reached it, Carter turned to look back, his eyes scanning the faces of his crew, people he had sworn to protect. There was fear in their eyes, but also a spark of hope, a belief that their commander would see them through this nightmare. "Move!" Carter commanded, ushering them inside. The door groaned shut behind them, sealing the bunker in darkness. Only the dim glow of emergency lights remained, casting long shadows across their faces. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of labored breathing. Carter took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. This was no longer a battle for victory, it was a battle for survival. And he would be damned if he let his people die without a fight. As the team settled in, the reality of their situation hit hard. Cut off, surrounded, and with no reinforcements in sight, they were truly alone. But Carter knew one thing with absolute certainty. If these aliens thought humanity would roll over and die, they were in for a brutal awakening. "Commander," Reynolds whispered, her voice barely audible. "What do we do now?" Carter's eyes narrowed, his resolve hardening. "We survive. And then, we make them pay." The bunker's low hum filled the air, a dull reminder that they were sealed beneath tons of rock and steel. Commander Alex Carter stood before the flickering holographic map, its blue light casting eerie shadows across his face. The alien fleet's position blinked ominously, too close for comfort. Time was running out. Lieutenant Maya Reynolds leaned against the wall, her eyes never leaving Carter. "We can't stay down here forever," she said, her voice calm but edged with urgency. "They'll find us eventually." Carter nodded, his mind racing. The comms array, hidden deep in the bunker, was their only lifeline. But the damage was extensive, and without it, they were isolated, cut off from any hope of rescue. The odds were grim, but he refused to surrender. Options? Carter asked, turning to Reynolds. Reynolds straightened, her mind already working through possibilities. We could try to repair the array. It's a long shot, but if we boost the signal with the auxiliary power, we might get a message out. Carter's gaze shifted to the array, its broken circuits and shattered screens a testament to the ferocity of the initial attack. And the risks? High, Reynolds admitted. The aliens are likely scanning for any signals. Boosting the power might give us away. Carter clenched his fists. It was a gamble, but sitting in the bunker waiting to be discovered wasn't a viable plan. We'll have to move fast. Gather a team and head to the array. Reynolds moved quickly, selecting a handful of engineers and tech specialists. The group was small but capable, each one understanding the gravity of the mission. As they geared up, Carter noticed the fear in their eyes, but also the determination. They knew what was at stake. Listen up, Carter said, his voice firm but steady. This mission is critical. We get that array online, or we're finished. Stay sharp, stay focused, and we'll get through this. The team nodded, and with a final check of their gear, they headed out. The corridor leading to the array was dark, lit only by the red emergency lights that flickered ominously. The air was thick with tension, every creak and groan of the structure putting them on edge. As they reached the control room, Reynolds began coordinating the repair effort, her hands moving swiftly over the controls. Sparks flew as wires were reconnected, and the array hummed to life, its soft glow a beacon of hope. But that hope was short-lived. A low rumble shook the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the floor vibrated beneath their feet. They're here, Carter muttered, his jaw tightening. The aliens had detected the power surge. Commander, we need more time, Reynolds said, her voice tense as she worked furiously to stabilize the array. Carter didn't hesitate. I'll hold them off. You get that signal out. He grabbed his rifle and moved to the entrance, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. As he positioned himself behind cover, the door shuddered, bending under the force of the aliens' assault. A moment later, it burst open, and the enemy poured in, sleek, lethal, and utterly alien. The first shots rang out, bright flashes in the dim corridor. Carter fired back, his pulse pounding in his ears. He was outnumbered, but he held his ground, each shot precise, every move calculated. The corridor became a battlefield, the air thick with the smell of scorched metal and ozone. Behind him, Reynolds shouted, "We're almost there!" But Carter knew their time was running out. The aliens were relentless, advancing with cold efficiency. Then, just as Carter felt the tide turning against them, the array crackled to life. "Signal sent!" Reynolds called, her voice triumphant. But there was no time to celebrate. The aliens surged forward, overwhelming Carter's position. He fell back, retreating towards the control room, his weapon blazing. The door sealed shut behind him, locking out the invaders, but he knew it wouldn't hold for long. Breathing heavily, Carter turned to his team. "Now we wait," he said, his voice grim. The signal was out, but whether anyone would hear it in time was another matter. The bunker trembled under the alien onslaught, and Carter knew they were living on borrowed time. The bunker's reinforced doors shuddered with every impact, the sounds of alien weapons reverberating through the confined space. Commander Alex Carter gripped his rifle tighter, his knuckles white with tension. Beside him, Lieutenant Maya Reynolds worked feverishly at the control panel, rerouting power to fortify the door. Sparks flew as she spliced wires, her face illuminated by the harsh blue glow of the monitors. "They're not going to stop," Carter said, his voice low but resolute. "They know we're cornered." Reynolds glanced up, sweat beading on her brow. "I'm buying us time, but we can't hold them off forever. The door won't last under this kind of pressure." Carter's mind raced, weighing their dwindling options. The signal had been sent, but there was no way to know if anyone had received it, or if help was even on the way. They were alone, surrounded by an enemy intent on wiping them out. But Carter knew surrender wasn't an option. Not now, not ever. A sudden explosion rocked the bunker, sending a shockwave through the walls. Dust and debris rained down, filling the air with a choking cloud. Carter shielded his eyes, coughing as he fought to regain his bearings. The lights flickered and dimmed, casting the room in eerie half-darkness. "They've breached the outer defenses," Reynolds shouted over the noise, her voice tinged with desperation. "We're out of time." Carter's gaze hardened. "Then we make our stand here. If they want us, they'll have to fight for every inch." The team quickly took up defensive positions, their faces set in grim determination. There was no room for doubt or hesitation, only the cold, hard reality of survival. As the pounding on the door intensified, Carter's thoughts turned to the enemy. These aliens were ruthless, methodical, and terrifyingly efficient. But they had made one critical mistake: they had underestimated humanity's will to survive. A deep, guttural hum filled the air as the door finally gave way. It buckled inward with a deafening crash, and the aliens poured through the breach, their sleek forms moving with lethal precision. Carter opened fire, the crack of his rifle echoing through the corridor. His team followed suit, a barrage of bullets and plasma lighting up the darkness. The aliens responded in kind, their weapons hissing and snarling as they unleashed a torrent of energy blasts. The room became a maelstrom of light and sound, the very air crackling with the intensity of the battle. Carter moved with practiced efficiency, each shot deliberate, each step calculated. There was no room for error. Reynolds crouched behind a console, returning fire while monitoring the readouts on her display. "Commander, we've got a problem. The power core is overheating. If it goes critical, this whole place will blow." Carter's mind seized on the information, turning it over with grim determination. "Can you stabilize it?" "Not without shutting down the defenses," Reynolds replied, her voice tight. "If I divert power, we're sitting ducks." Carter gritted his teeth. The choice was clear, but it wasn't easy. "Do it. We can't risk the core going up." Reynolds didn't hesitate. Her fingers flew over the controls, rerouting power away from the shields. The defensive barriers flickered and died, leaving them vulnerable. The aliens pressed the advantage, surging forward with renewed aggression. Carter's team held the line, but the weight of the assault was overwhelming. One by one, his people fell, cut down by the merciless advance. Carter felt a pang of loss with each casualty, but there was no time to mourn. The mission was all that mattered now. Just as the situation seemed hopeless, a new sound filled the air, a low, rumbling growl that sent a shiver down Carter's spine. The aliens paused, their movements suddenly hesitant, as if sensing a new threat. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the distant roar grew louder, more ominous. "What the hell is that?" Reynolds whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Carter didn't have an answer, but he felt it too, a primal force, ancient and powerful, rising from the depths. The aliens shifted uneasily, their confidence shaken for the first time. Whatever was coming, it terrified them. And then, with a thunderous crash, the walls of the bunker split open. A massive, hulking figure emerged from the darkness, its eyes glowing with an unearthly light. The creature was unlike anything Carter had ever seen, a fusion of machine and flesh, a monstrous hybrid of alien and human technology. It towered over the battlefield, its presence radiating sheer, unstoppable power. The aliens turned to face the new threat, but it was too late. The creature struck with terrifying speed, its massive claws tearing through the invaders with brutal efficiency. The air filled with the sound of rending metal and alien screams as the monstrosity ripped through their ranks. Carter watched in awe and horror as the creature decimated the alien force. Whatever this thing was, it was their salvation, and their nightmare. As the last of the aliens fell, the creature turned its glowing gaze towards Carter and his team. The creature's towering form filled the ruined bunker, its eyes glowing with an intense, eerie light that seemed to pierce through the darkness. Commander Carter's breath hitched as he met its gaze, the weight of its presence nearly suffocating. Around him, the few remaining members of his team froze, weapons trained on the unknown entity. Despite the alien carnage it had just wrought, the creature stood still, observing them with an intelligence that sent a chill down Carter's spine. "Hold your fire," Carter ordered, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions raging within him. "It's not attacking us yet." Lieutenant Reynolds stepped forward cautiously, her eyes locked on the creature. "What is this thing, Commander? It doesn't match anything in our database." Carter shook his head slowly, his mind racing. "I don't know. But it's clearly not one of them." He gestured to the mangled alien corpses scattered across the floor. "It took them out, which means we might have a common enemy." The creature's gaze shifted, focusing intently on Reynolds. She stiffened, gripping her weapon tighter, but Carter raised a hand, signaling her to stand down. For a moment, the air was thick with tension, a silent standoff between human and monster. Then, the creature did something unexpected. It spoke. The voice that emanated from the creature was deep, resonant, and tinged with a strange mechanical echo. "You are human!" It wasn't a question, but a statement, a confirmation. Carter swallowed hard, trying to make sense of this new development. "Yes," he replied, his voice measured. "We're human. And you?" There was a pause, as if the creature was processing the question. "I am a remnant. A fusion of human ingenuity and alien corruption. Created in desperation, to fight, to survive." Reynolds' eyes widened. "A remnant? You were made by humans? But how?" The creature's glowing eyes dimmed slightly, as if in sorrow. "Long ago, your kind sought to harness the enemy's power. I was born from that effort, a weapon, a shield. But the process, it corrupted me, merged me with the enemy's technology. I became something else." Carter's heart pounded as the pieces began to fall into place. This creature, this remnant, was the result of a forgotten war, a desperate experiment to turn the tide against an overwhelming foe. But something had gone wrong, leaving it trapped in a monstrous form, either fully human nor fully alien. "But you're still fighting them," Carter said, his voice gaining strength. "Even after all this time, you're still on our side." The remnant's gaze flickered, as if considering Carter's words. "Yes. I am bound by my purpose. The enemy must be destroyed. But I am damaged. The corruption spreads, and soon, I will lose myself entirely." The revelation hit Carter like a sledgehammer. This creature, once a product of human ingenuity, was slowly succumbing to the very enemy it was created to fight. It was a tragic irony, and yet there was still a glimmer of hope. "Commander," Reynolds said softly, "if we can repair it, stabilize the corruption, we could have a powerful ally." Carter nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. "But that's a big if. We don't have the resources here, and time is running out." The remnant's voice rumbled once more, tinged with both determination and sorrow. "I can buy you time. The enemy will return, stronger, relentless. I will hold them off, but you must go. There is a place, deep within their territory, where my creators hid a fail-safe. Find it, and you may yet turn the tide." Carter felt a surge of both dread and resolve. Venturing into enemy territory was a death sentence, but it was their only shot. "We'll do it," he said firmly. "But what about you?" The remnant's eyes blazed with renewed intensity. "My purpose is to protect. As long as I function, I will fulfill that purpose. Go, human, and remember, we are more than what we become." With that, the remnant turned away, its massive form moving with a deliberate, almost sorrowful grace. It positioned itself at the gaping breach, facing the darkness from which the enemy would soon emerge. Carter watched, a heavy weight settling in his chest. "Let's move!" Carter barked, snapping his team into action. They gathered their gear, their faces a mix of determination and fear. As they filed out of the bunker, Carter spared one last glance at the remnant. It stood unwavering, a lone sentinel against the coming storm. Outside, the air was thick with tension, the silence oppressive. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but Carter knew they had no choice. The remnant's sacrifice would not be in vain. As they began their perilous journey toward the heart of enemy territory, Carter's mind churned with thoughts of the remnant. It was a symbol of humanity's indomitable spirit, even when twisted and scarred by war. They would honor its legacy, and if they succeeded, perhaps they could save it from the darkness consuming it.